Hey everyone, today we're doing something a little different on the channel here. We're going to talk about Dune Awakening. I've put some time into this now. It is the new MMO survival game from Funcom, and I've been having a good time, a good enough time that I would like to talk about it. And I'm going to talk about certain aspects, and I'll tag them in the video, so if you want to jump to a certain aspect that I'm going to talk about, you can just click on a YouTube video. You guys know the deal. If you end up liking this, don't forget to do YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate it. But anyways, let's get into it. First off, I want to talk about the visuals and the atmosphere. And I think this is the biggest selling point to me for the game. Now, typically a game about a big desert world is not super appealing from a strictly like gameplay stance, because it's going to get pretty redundant, right? Desert, rock, desert and rocks, desert and rocks. That's what it is. Somehow, this game, at least in the early hours, has managed to make it feel special. Like, it doesn't feel different. It's still desert and rocks, but the atmosphere of the game is so Dune. I don't know how they could have done it any better with like the current technology that we have. It's actually impressive. The way the sand moves around when you're walking, or when you're on your speeder and you like do a little drift or something and just the sand moves, is fantastic. There's the way the dust storms pop up. The way when a sandworm pops out of the ground several hundred meters away from you and you can see that and you're like, oh crap, I gotta move. It just really does it. I think the characters look fine. They're not special. They're not bad. It's whatever. The textures and environment look pretty okay. There do seem to be some like dungeon-esque areas that have some floral life, you know, some type of greenery to mix it up a little bit. So it's not strictly desert all the time, but do keep in mind that like this is a game where you're going to spend most of your time in the desert doing desert things and trying to survive the desert. But that kind of comes with it. All right, let's talk about combat. So combat in this game has been surprisingly good. Most survival games I feel like have decent at the high end combat to bad combat. I think this game like is near the top at decent. It has good range combat. It has solid melee combat. It's not super complicated. It's not super fancy, but there are some mechanics due to the shield system that is like a lore part of Dune, where these shields are meant to protect you from bullets. Basically, they prevent fast moving projectiles. So to get around these shields, you either have to like use explosions, or you go in and melee and you use like a strong slow attack to cut through the shield. There's also parries. There's a quick little dodge roll. And there's a ton of skill. Well, there's not a ton of skills. There's a bunch of skills that you get to use between the 5 various classes that you could pick from. And I think all of that together leads to the combat to being above average for the genre, but it's not going to compare to something like a true third-person action RPG or something like that, you know, or a true first-person shooter. It is a third-person action game at the end of the day, but the combat is satisfactory at best. Base building. Okay, so base building is actually kind of neat, but also kind of bad. It's weird. So, at least at the start, the look of all the bases feels very samey and is kind of off-putting. Now, I'm personally more of a fantasy guy myself, on average, so part of that might be just my own bias. However, I have seen some stuff as I progressed a little further into like after the tutorial zone into the next area, where some people do have some fancy looking bases going on. They still don't really blow me away just yet, and I am a little worried that this is Funcom and what happened with Conan Exiles, and they like made you pay for all the like different textures and whatnot for crazier looking base materials. I hope that's not the case here, but from a purely aesthetic standpoint, the base building is just okay. Now, from actually placing the bases and like building the bases, I think it does a great job because it has this system that I haven't personally seen in another game before, but I wouldn't be surprised if another game has it. Basically, what you do is you have a tool that you pick a piece, like you want to put down some floor. You could put down a bunch of different floor pieces, and you don't lock them in immediately. So like you put down a hologram, and then once that hologram's down, you can hold down the button to actually build it. Now what this does is it lets you kind of like plan out your base without committing to putting all the resources down at one time and having to break it down and rebuild it. I think it's a really fun system. I like it immediately. So I'm kind of digging that. There's ladders, there's hatches, there's some good management. A big part of the game is your base because it offers you protection from like sandstorms and stuff, and like protects your vehicles from those sandstorms and all that whatnot. And then all your crafting and stuff has to be done inside your base because you have to generate power, and that's also where you're gonna like generate water so that you can survive. But it's just like this all-encompassing thing. So like your base is like a huge part of the game. But overall, I think that's pretty good too. Like, I think it's better than Conan Exiles, which is going to be my reference point. I don't know if it's as good as Enshrouded, but I do have Enshrouded as like the best of the action survival genre right now with the base building. Speaking of surviving though, let's talk about the survival aspects of the game. And I think this and the visuals and atmosphere is really where the game shines. And if you enjoy this game and how much you enjoy this game is probably going to depend either on if you play with a group of people, which you'll probably just enjoy it anyway because that's how survival games work. But if you're playing solo, the survival aspects are really interesting because this game probably does it the best of any game I've seen so far, where it fits in with the world and the lore. So you don't have to eat food. The only thing you ever have to worry about is water. The whole thing is you have to stay hydrated, which you're on a desert planet. Kind of makes sense, right? Now you do have to worry about things like, the heat, because if it's hot, you'll get dehydrated faster, but I think that all plays into it. So a lot of what you're doing is trying to maximize your ability to stay hydrated, and whether that be, different types of armor that like recycles your hydration. Like I have an early game set of gear that basically just as I move around, it slowly gathers water, and when I need to, I can press a key and drink it in case of, I'm in a bad situation. You do get extra stamina and maybe HP, I believe, at high levels of hydration, but I don't know the actual numbers on that. So, and it hasn't really mattered that much to me so far. Very early on in the game, you're going to find yourself dehydrated a lot and like looking for like these little flowers that will give you a minimal amount. But the other way to get hydrated, and this is kind of interesting, is basically harvesting the blood of your enemies. So when you defeat the random people that are in the early game, you can extract their blood. Now, when you take that back to your base, you can purify that back to drinkable water. However, if you're desperate, you can do that while you're out. You can just drink the blood straight while you're out in the field. If you decide to drink that blood straight while you're out in the field, you do take a health debuff. Not something you want to do, but it is better than being dehydrated and slowly dying, because it will kill you. You will die of thirst, and that is a big part of the game. So I think it fits the theme just so well that it ends up being like the key point to keeping the whole experience interesting. And the last thing I want to talk about is the world itself, and not so much like the visuals and the survival and whatnot, but like while you're doing all this stuff, you're gonna see sandworms popping up all over the time, and they're gonna like stress you out, especially if they're nearby. The way you traverse the world is so seemingly important in the game, especially early on. And it seems to be like your main goal of progression is like increasing your skill trees, right? Getting to the end of that, and then getting better ways to traverse the world. Because if there's basically any open desert, you're susceptible to being eaten by a sandworm. If you are eaten, you lose everything. I actually, very recently, prior to recording this video, I was eaten for the first time. Apparently on the first time, you get a one-time bonus of they give you your vehicle back, but I did lose I lost all my armor and everything I had equipped. That's just part of it. I think having it where you got to keep everything would kind of take away the fear of the whole sandworm thing, which is really what keeps the game going. Is that like the sandworms, anytime you're out in the open, are out to kill you. These random people and their little outposts are out to kill you. That's very Conan-esque. Conan Exiles, if you guys have played that. They're basically places for you to go and loot and level up and whatnot. And then the sandstorms and the thirst, right? Those are things they're all trying to kill you. And all of that combined, oh, not to mention, I didn't even say before, there's like airships and stuff going around all the time. And you've got other players who are building things, so you're gonna see houses all over the place and people just going by. Sometimes they'll help you. PvP is not till late in the game, so I don't have anything to speak on for that. It just becomes a really good experience. And then, so yeah, I'd say overall in my first like 8 hours, I really recommend it. If you're into the survival genre and you don't mind the sci-fi setting, it's fantastic. Like if you like Dune and you like survival games, it's an easy buy. If you like survival games, but you don't like sci-fi, it's a little harder. If you like Dune and you don't care about survival games, I don't think it's going to matter, because I think the Dune aspect is so strong that it's going to carry it. And there is some story and cinematic stuff going on that kind of makes me feel like a Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic sort of deal. So that is also something to keep in mind. I'll have some more coverage of this later once I've put some more time in, but I just wanted to get my early thoughts out. They may change, admittedly, because these types of games, you know, sometimes the end game is not the same as the first, you know, the first part of it, but hopefully it continues being great. But anyways, I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe. You guys know the deal. I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Jeff out. Bye.
Continue to